We answer some viewer questions on driving in winter conditions, auto stop start, and our favorite muscle cars, as well as touch on first impressions of the 2018 Toyota Camry. Next on Talking Cars. Hi, and welcome to the show. I'm Jennifer Stockberger.
I'm Jake Fisher.
I'm Gabe Shenhar.
Just want to start by noting where I'm sitting. I'm very excited. I feel like I have a place of honor in the moderator's spot today.
Congrats.
I really thank you. I enjoy the Talking Cars, working with you guys so much, but I feel like I've gotten a promotion here today to this moderator position. So we're going to jump right in with some viewer questions. First one involves tires, oddly. So what's more important during winter driving, ice traction or snow traction? It's the first part of the question. And I've noticed the latest high-performance all-season tires flip-flopped when compared to ratings from the last generation. So I think we'll break it up. The first one is what's more important, ice or snow traction?
I mean, look, that all depends on where you live, and that depends on who you are. And actually, it's true. It doesn't matter if you're buying tires or buying cars, right? What's more important, acceleration or stopping or ride or infotainment? It depends on your situation. So there are some situations where you are in a situation where the roads are very packed snow. Probably something on ice would probably be better on that.
Yep.
I know where we live, often we get kind of that deep snow, and you need that traction of that deep snow traction. But I mean, in terms of the ratings, I mean, I'm kind of the car guy here. You're the tire person, so.
Right. So I would say exactly. Depends on who you are and where you live. And then in terms of the ratings changes, tires evolve through their product life just like cars, just like any other product. Manufacturers on tires are continually tweaking the product, be it the rubber compounds or the tread designs to improve certain aspects. So it's not uncommon for us to see changes when we test a group of tires one time and then test it again to see them change order, change flip-flop.
And I suspect it's similar with cars. I mean, cars, we see some things get better. I mean, we had a situation with, remember the oldest Ford Escapes? They used to, every year the fuel economy, this is the last generation of them, every year the fuel economy got better.
Yep.
And the stopping distances
got worse. So sometimes when you try to improve one aspect of it, something else gets worse. And I'm sure the same thing is with tires.
Absolutely with tires. There are real compromises. I mean, we used to say rolling resistance was a big one. They were looking for fuel economy, but it was completely counter to, say, wet traction.
Right.
The chemistry is getting better. The formulations of the rubber compounds are getting better. Those compromises are getting less, but they still exist.
And wet traction is actually important in our area because once you clear the snow, it becomes all slush and wetness.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. So good. All right, I'm going to move on. Why is it that when cars have the auto start-stop feature, the power steering is disabled? You would think that it would remain operational as it is not running off a power steering pump, instead using electric power steering. I think you had some thoughts on this one.
Yeah, so not all cars do that. They should turn the engine back on as soon as there is some torque on the wheel. I think most cars do that, but some cars do not, and that's really a weakness. But you can also modulate the stop-start yourself with the amount of pressure you put on the brake pedal very often.
But again, that's some cars. I mean, interesting about these new technologies is there's different ways of implementing them, and we talk about the advanced safety technology too. It's like the Wild West, you know. It's like they've got this widget and they're putting on cars, and the way they've implemented it is completely different. So some of the best systems, like you say, Gabe, I mean, you could actually go halfway on the brake pedal. You're still using the brake pedal, but you could actually choose to restart the engine. Some not so much. And the other one, and Ford comes to mind. Ford has implemented their start-stop, so also the engine goes off. You can't really turn the wheel.
Yeah, it's locked.
And you can't really turn the wheel until you get off the brake pedal. And sometimes that's not so good.
Yeah, that's not so good. And I'd add too that it affects, in some cars where it's not as well implemented, the stop-start, it really affects the air conditioning. And
that's right.
Particularly in the Ford Escape that we just tested. I mean, you stand at the light, and all of a sudden the cabin becomes humid.
Your air conditioning compressor goes off.
Completely different implementations, even in the response time. Some, they immediately come back to life. there's this delay and you're waiting for the auto
Well, the very
stops.
first one we saw was that BMW 3 Series. That was the first vehicle that we had a start-stop technology. We all universally hated it.
Shutter.
Yes.
Back to
Right, it
life.
was that shutter. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden
Oh, you felt like someone hit you from behind. But BMW learned the hard way, and compare that to the new 5 Series. I think that is the smoothest start-stop
Right.
that I've ever
Right.
experienced.
They listened. Yeah.
But here's the danger with any of these new technologies. If you put it out there before it's really worked out all those details, you get a lot of people saying, "Oh, I had that system, it sucked. It was terrible."
Yeah.
And that's the danger with any of the systems. And again, the advanced safety systems, same boat. Infotainment, same boat. Not to say this is terrible stuff, but if you kind of half put it out there, you get this bad taste in your mouth, and there's lots of people who say, "Oh my God, I'll never get a car with start-stop." But
Yeah,
then
they get tarnished with
Right.
bad
but
reputation.
some of the good systems, wow, they're terrific.
It's that perfection versus progress. And if they're quick to respond, like you're saying BMW was, it's actually a great thing. Because
Well-
they learn very quickly, they realize what consumers don't want, and it fixes.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, here's a kind of a fun question. Hey CR, what is the best muscle car you can buy, lease right now that is fun to drive, practical, and offers a good amount of performance for the money?
Now we're talking
Now
some
we're talking.
good stuff.
And
All
I'm
these
assuming
questions
here,
are fun.
I'm
Come on.
assuming American muscle when we say that. Is that the assumption?
It doesn't
Must-
have to be.
Doesn't have to be, but that's usually the assumption.
That's usually the assumption, although there are some muscle cars that are not American,
Right.
like from BMW M or
Yeah,
Mercedes AMG, that are just as
Yeah.
good a muscle car with and that don't see anything to an American muscle car. But if we're in the vein of an American muscle car, and actually it seems American, but it's actually Australian, the one I have in mind.
Okay.
And that's the Chevrolet SS. And if I were this guy, I'd just go run and buy it now, because you can't get it anymore. In a few months, they're phasing it out. And that's probably going to become a collector's item.
Not a big seller.
Not a big seller, but the car is really a muscle car, and it's practical, and it's fun to drive.
I think I would agree with you in terms of the minute you put the 4 doors on and give it a trunk, that really ups the practical scale. I also think that car was very cool in that it's very unassuming. Like, you don't think it's a muscle car. It's not like you pull it in a Corvette and people expect it to be
It totally flies under the
powerful.
radar.
It flies under the radar.
Well, I mean, it all depends on this person. But I mean, it's like often when somebody's looking for a muscle car, a lot has to do with image and projecting that.
Yeah.
And that car, sorry, it doesn't. It projects that you're driving a cop car, basically. So I don't know. It depends on what you're really after. If you want something that looks really good, I mean, there's other ways to go. I mean, look, I mean, every adolescent kid is pointing it at Camaros and saying Bumblebee, and I know my kids do that. I mean, the Mustang is a really fun car and is really growing up. But who knows if you really have to get new? I mean, there's other things. I mean, you talk about the SS. I mean, a Pontiac G8. If you could find one of those, is very similar to the SS. It was a great vehicle. But if you don't want to go there, and why not complete? You know what? One of the cars that I would consider getting is a G37 Coupe. I absolutely loved that vehicle. I don't know if you really want to call it a muscle car, but
right,
it had a lot of power.
Well, it was fun. It was practical.
Rear drive, and I think it looked great. I mean, you see them around now, and they're all slamming into the ground with big wide wheels, and I think they look incredible.
Yeah. I think we should note too that a lot of the American muscle cars, the reliability is not top notch in terms of those. So when we say SS, those are our personal choices, and I still would say that. But really, Camaro, Corvette, they're the only ones in terms of reliability.
But
that
Maybe
we're
we should
leading with.
continue the conversation with the person and follow up.
But I mean, I think what's important here is that it's all what's important to you, and it goes back to
back to
tires
the
in
first
winter,
question.
right? It's like if you're looking for something that projects an image or looks really great or really excites you to get into, well, you know what? Maybe you're willing to put up with a car that's less reliable, and that's okay.
Right.
Everyone makes their own decisions. We just put the information out there and say, well, it's not going to be reliable, but as we know, there's people who buy Jeep Wranglers who it doesn't handle well and it may not be reliable, but it puts a smile on their face every day.
Yeah.
Go for it. You
Yep.
made the right choice.
I don't think any of those would. Okay, last question. Love the show, every episode. I'm a frequent website visitor, but nearly nothing on the vehicles I'm considering, including the Mercedes Sprinter and the Ford Transit passenger vans. Please give me some thoughts and data. Maybe I should or shouldn't get one for my family.
So we tested the Ford Transit Connect, and it really drives nicely, but as a viable alternative to a minivan, it won't fly. I mean, the way the seats fold is so cumbersome.
Yeah.
It just doesn't function like a minivan. And the other one, is it the
Well, they're
Sprinter?
talking about
or-
the bigger ones. They're talking
Yeah.
about the big Transits
Right.
and the Sprinter.
Yep,
Now, is he talking about the Mercedes Sprinter or the Metris here?
the Sprinter.
The Sprinter. Okay, these are commercial vans through and through. I mean, they are designed for tradesmen of all kinds of professions, and they're really not designed as passenger friendly. They have very bare metal kind of interiors, and the interior flexibility is just not there. It's not really an alternative for a
I mean,
minivan.
we've driven these vehicles. I mean, we're exposed to these vehicles, and I mean, also the Ram Pro. What do they call it? The
ProMaster.
ProMaster.
Yeah.
I mean, there's commercial vans. Some of them you can get with the interior. Some you can get with seats. But I mean, you know, take a look at these vehicles. Get in one of these, and then get in a Odyssey.
Right.
You know, it's night and day. One's really designed for consumers and drivers and families. The other one is designed to, you know,
Right.
carry your, you know, equipment.
I think one advantage they do have is the height. So we, you know, even when our evaluations and our coverage of, say, the Transit Connect, if you have a very active lifestyle or a very active family life, you can roll bikes. To your, you know, when you're biking, you can roll a bike in those because the height allows it. Could never do that in a minivan.
I
So
can. I mean, I just did it. So I mean, I took
roll it in straight?
I roll them in straight.
So that's-
I took our brand new Odyssey and
Okay.
I went out and I rolled
Yeah.
in my bike straight, and I had a few of them there. And I mean, minivans are awesome. Let me just throw that out there. But I mean, I had our Odyssey. I fold flat the third row seat, kept the second row with the 3-pass in there,
Yeah.
and I still got my bikes in there. So I mean, it's just
Yeah.
they're really, really useful vehicles. These things are commercial vehicles.
Okay. That are modified to fit some passengers.
Right. You know, it's great if you're, you know, picking up people at the airport, you know,
Yep.
and you're the airport shuttle.
Well,
but
that's where you see them, as a shuttle van.
Sure.
More often than not.
Right.
Okay. So we're going to change gears here. Talk about the new 2018 Toyota Camry. So obviously super popular car. I think the risk when you have a car that's so popular and so well loved is did they wreck it by advancing it? So just some initial thoughts.
Yeah, so the Camry, the Camry usually gets a bad rap for some reason. If you read what's out there,
there's a lot of reasons.
You're going to think we're talking about a 1964 Buick. Or
I think we used the
something,
word
and-
vanilla in our, you know, that it was very vanilla in our own.
It is
coverage.
vanilla.
It's vanilla.
It is vanilla. It's boring.
It's
Come on.
very well-rounded. It's very functional.
It's got a great personality.
It's, and Toyota is always under pressure to make it more exciting and inject some emotion to it. So they really are stressing how stylish it is. I mean, I don't see it, but and how improved the handling is. And true, yeah, the ride and handling are pretty decent. I mean, it's an incremental thing.
Yeah.
The car
Yeah.
feels a little lighter on its feet now, and it's a little more willing to corner.
But it never was
It-
terrible.
No, exactly. It was never really so
why it was so
bad.
well-liked, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's going to succeed no matter what. I mean, the Camry has such a brand equity to it. I mean, they sell 400,000 units a year. I mean, it's the number 2 most popular car among our readers, if you include the hybrid as well. And I mean, my concern is that there is some risk of alienating some of the loyal buyers of the Camry because the car is now lower, and,
Marginally.
And rear seat isn't
Right.
as accommodating as it used to be.
I mean, look, it's everything you say about the Camry. I mean, it's boring. Yes, it's boring. I mean, if you're looking for an image car, you want something that stands out. Look elsewhere. Don't buy a Camry. Run away. Buy that muscle car.
Right.
But I got to give it to Toyota for just sticking to their guns. Yeah, there's lip service, and they're saying, oh, yeah, well, it's sportier, and it's a quarter an inch lower, whatever it is. But it still is Camry. Everything is incrementally better.
Right.
And, I mean, look, power, I mean, the standard engine's over 200 horsepower. The V6, And let's hold on that. V6, they're actually still putting a V6 in a midsize sedan, which is rare these days. Even Honda Accord, they're getting rid of their V6 and putting a turbo 4 into it. Over 300 horsepower. So, I mean, and they've improved the fuel economy of both of them. So they just incrementally improve this vehicle, but they're sticking to their guns. They're not doing all the flashy electronics. This does not have a complicated monostable shifter. This doesn't have a giant iPad out there. This doesn't even have Apple CarPlay or all these things. No, Apple CarPlay is an infotainment thing. I mean, it's neat. It's kind of leading edge. It's in its infancy. And we hear from other manufacturers that, they change something, Apple changes something, and so it's not working. I mean, they are stressing reliability. They're stressing, let's stay to what true. And some of the changes they made was roadside assistance is now extended. I mean, you could get that security, and that's why people buy the car. And
it's a very conservative company, and it works well for them.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't change it so much as to alienate the huge following. But I do think they made it less vanilla. I do think it, particularly in the styling, but still simple, to your point.
Yeah.
Those controls, you got some funky waves and stitching and placement of controls, but I still think they work very, very well. The other thing...
Oh, and controls. There's a tuning knob.
And a volume knob. Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yes. Now, you can do it electronically, too, but yeah. And they're easy reach. All of that's still very simple.
And to your point, they resisted going to continuously variable automatic transmission, unlike some of their competitors, in order to chase fuel economy. So they have an 8-speed automatic.
No turbos.
No turbos, and no dual clutch automatic. None of that.
None of the gizmos.
None of those, modern, fashionable things.
But it works.
Yes.
But it works. And I wouldn't be surprised when we do test fuel economy that even without the turbos and without that fancy automatic, and it still may wind up with better fuel economy.
Yeah.
So.
And I'd be remiss, standard, which we've already said, standard automatic emergency braking, standard forward collision warning, standard high beam assist, which is this wonderful automatic switch to high beam. That's part of that Toyota safety sense that we love. I love the automatic high beam.
And just
so it's all part of that.
And just to go to the
package.
complete opposite, I mean, you get a 7 Series BMW, which is over $100,000, that has the semi-autonomous driving control and super BMW Whiz-It. I could go do like this to you can turn the volume. It's got all these little gizmos, but not standard A, B, and FCW.
Right. So love that, and all still under 30,000, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that the stickers are still. So I think it's a great package.
There's a range. I mean, it's going to be priced from 24,000 to 34,000. Yeah.
Right. But anyway. I think I don't think they wrecked it. I think they did good.
No like capacitive switches. And actually, I mean...
Incrementally, but still
and just, I mean, Toyota did have some false starts. So the last generation of the Avalon, they put in the capacitive switches, and they realized that everyone hated them. Right. They went and
ruined the ride.
They ruined the ride, trying to make it sportier, and they had to just about face that right away.
They didn't pull an Avalon.
They didn't put an Avalon. They've learned,
Right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.